Good. So hello, everyone. Welcome back to Retention Chronicles. Super excited for our guest here today. Greg, welcome. Thank you for making the time to be here. Super excited to dive into CrossNet and Good Sport. If you wouldn't mind, could you give us an intro?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So I'm Greg, co-founder of CrossNet and Good Sport now, both backyard innovative companies that are getting people outside and get out and go play. So we're trying to get people out in the world to get off their phones.
I love it. I mean, we're both sitting on laptops right now, and I'd much rather be going and playing CrossNet or Good Sport. So don't tell my boss, although she would probably join me in it. Can you give us, like, in case anyone's not familiar with CrossNet or Good Sport, can you kind of break down both of those companies that you've now founded
Yeah,
alongside kind of the founding team? Give us the structure of both of those, please.
yeah, absolutely. So CrossNet is a four-way volleyball game. We started 5 years ago with my co-founder Mike and my brother, also other co-founder Chris. And we just made it one night in my mom's backyard and invited some friends over, and it was a blast. We ended up knowing we had to pursue this because it was just so fun. We had people wanting to play it, lining up at the beaches when we had the prototypes. Eventually took it to market. Took about a year, and then the rest was history. COVID happened. It blew up even more faster than we ever anticipated. And then 5 years later, we started another company called Good Sport with YouTuber Danny Duncan, good friend of ours now. And we're just coming out with innovative games to get people outside, trying to make every game we make a little more creative and spicy, and not the generic, wooden paddles you see at the Walmarts of the world. So we're trying to spice it up and just put some spin on it.
Love it. So I was telling you this before we hopped on the recording. But I played CrossNet this past weekend for the first time, knew about it beforehand. But when I actually told my friends, I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm getting to talk to one of the co-founders this week, which was just, timing, simulation, it's all real. But I was thinking about, like, if you're just playing in the backyard with your friend and your brother, what was, like, the dynamics of kind of getting it off the ground? Like, were you always that founding team? Were you all trying, like, all entrepreneurs at first, or how was the journey kind of getting there, or like going into business with your brother and your friend, right? Like figuring out all those dynamics. Usually when I've had a couple of sibling or a marital co-founders who come on the podcast, and it's always interesting to dive into, like, how you kind of bridge the family but also the professional relationship.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And a lot of people always are like, oh, you shouldn't go to business with your friends or family. I don't think I would change it. I think we have a great dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I started out I had another entrepreneur, DTC companies. I did social media stuff, had accounts that had millions of followers. So that's where I really started at. Mike was an engineer, graduated Northeastern, super smart guy. He graduated. He's like, I don't want to go build robots 9 to 5 for the rest of my life.
Right.
Let's make something. And then Chris, he's a killer salesman. He launched Uber Eats in Rhode Island, Boston area. So he's been great at sales his whole life. So we just all of us combined, and we eventually just rolled this out, and we picked the way, each day we were just had a new task. We'd all work on it together, or we'd have our own assignments based on our departments that have shifted over the years. I started out doing the social media, then I'm doing contracts and legal stuff. So it's a learning process, but we have a great team, and we continue to have that core team right now to this day.
Okay, so you said you have that core team, obviously, to this day. You've expanded your team a little bit. What's the number it's around? It's like relatively smaller, right?
Yeah, so we actually expanded after we did really well in year 3. We expanded to 25 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was probably the biggest mistake in our business. And that
Mm.
really just took the focus away from me, Chris, and Mike as founders in the weeds to this managerial role. And that's not what we're best at. Me, Mike,
Mm-hmm.
and Chris aren't the best managers. We're not we don't want to do that. We want to work and work on our business and our baby. So we weren't able to do the ins and outs. We were trying to manage and just a point task, and that's not how we got to where we were. And we kind of lost focus of that. So we toned it back. Unfortunately, we had to let some people go, but it's been the best thing for our business. And now we're back down to 7, 8 employees.
Okay.
Totally.
I love that you talk about like obviously the lesson to be learned of expanding and then learning that the managerial tasks aren't what you all are best suited for. And I think that's something that I feel like a lot of the times, obviously, everyone's striving for growth, right? Like, and usually what that corresponds to is growth in numbers, not necessarily growth and like learnings, right? So I always like to call that out because I know we have some founders who listen to the podcast or some people who want to be entrepreneurs. And I think it's very easy to follow maybe what you think you're supposed to follow in that playbook of like you hire X amount of employees and then it grows and grows and grows. And then the leadership team is not in the weeds as much as, you know, the founding days. So once you kind of learned that lesson and you shrunk the team, is your day to day kind of now similar to what you were doing in the beginning? I know you said social media and then you're now doing more legal things, but I'm at, like CEO, you have to wear a lot of hats. And I don't know, but I hear it from our CEO is that his day to day looks very different just depending on what he's doing. Um, so would you say that's accurate of like now you're
Yeah,
kind of similar to the founding days?
it's definitely shifted back to like our core roots of like working together and just cranking out tasks together as a team, the three of us. Tasks have changed obviously from day one to day now to now 5 years later. Definitely still involved in the marketing sales, but we all have our own tasks now that we kind of delegate. And we've been shifting roles over the past few years. If we lost an operations person, maybe Chris will bump up into the operations and help out. If we lost a social media person, I'm gonna bump up. So things like that is how we shift, and we've done great at it.
Awesome. Love it. Now a couple more questions that I just had to ask. Because like having someone in the game space, I feel like is so fun. One, do you feel like okay, so if you're going to a party with friends, family, whoever, are you all like bringing CrossNet? Like I have to know this.
Um, it's in the car. It's
Okay.
car, and if people want to play, yeah, I keep the games in my car. I hate always bringing them out, and it's like I feel like I'm obligated to set it up, and like
Uh-huh.
times these people don't want to play that shit. So
Yeah, yeah,
it happens. I'm always like trying to be active and do something. So when I'm at a party or I'm going to the beach, I don't want to just sit there. Like that's not me. I'm playing something, one of our games, a game, playing sports. So it's always ready to go. I can always throw the idea out.
Okay, okay. That's what I feel like if you're of that person, like I feel like my friends and I have like either like, I don't know, something that we're like planning to do, like a game night, right? Like everyone has their dedicated games that they all own. Like it's
Yeah,
not all of us don't have the same games, right? It's like, okay, we know this person has this game. Like, my friend Joey brought the CrossNet for this past weekend, right? So like we all kind of have those assigned
yeah,
responsibilities. So I was curious if it bled
yeah.
over.
Truthfully, we don't even play CrossNet that much anymore.
That's a real question or
We
answer I
played
wanted.
it so much in the first 3 years. Like we used to go to the beach every day for like 2 years straight and set this game up and play like for hours just to get
Mm,
people online. So we've definitely played our fair share of it, and we play once in a while each year. But we've definitely shifted since we have new games out with Good Sport. Like SmashNet is a new game that I'm always stoked to play now. I want to play that every day now. I'm trying to get people to play and not bug them. So that's the next game.
yeah, I'm sure it's a fun balance of trying to like slyly suggest it and be like, hey guys, do you want
Yeah.
to play? But there's obviously like the benefit of getting people talking about something and getting like an experience in if you're just lining up at the beach, right? Um, okay, and the last little fun question, and then we can dive into more the technical side of things. But who, when you were in those early days, like who was there kind of one person of the three of you or you know your team that was kind of the best at CrossNet, or was it
Oh,
all
me.
even day
Me
to
for
day?
sure. Mike got better over the years because he learned some trick shots. Chris has always been ass. He's the worst for sure. Yeah.
Love it, love it. Oh my God. Okay. So we can obviously keep I'm gonna as they come, I'm gonna keep asking questions that plays on that relationship there. But because you started with social media and your focus in social media, I think that lends itself very well into how I would say, like from a consumer, just someone in the space of you like as a brand, having thought leadership be at the front lines of CrossNet, like teaching other people in the ecom space, kind of what you all are doing. So was that kind of part of the want that you all had in the early days of like, we want to be known for like telling about our journey, and being thought leaders, or was it just something that came naturally?
Yeah, that came naturally actually. I've been in this space for like 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Always was quiet behind the scenes. I don't like posting, I don't like tweeting, I don't like doing any of that. And then
What about
eventually
TikTok? Wait, thoughts. What about TikTok?
I tried TikTok for a week. Oh my
It's
God.
like really hard, right? It's way
Yeah.
harder than
So
people let on.
yeah, so after the first 2 years across that, we started trying to do like this founders thing. And it
Mm.
was like, that's not like, we realized like that's not for our brand. Like you don't need to get your founders perspective in every company, especially if you didn't start the brand from that angle. It's hard to just throw the founders in. Like a 62-year-old mom doesn't care about like the three kids from
Right.
Connecticut that started this. They just want a backyard game for their kid. Um, some people do care. Some people love it, and but it's not for everyone. So we don't focus on that, especially if that's not our skill set. Um, we don't try to like force things. We did try to force things, and it didn't work out. But as far
Another
as like
lesson to be learned, you know?
yeah. As far as like being a thought leader in the actual space itself for people to learn, Chris has done a great job of that over the past 2 years, 3 years. I'm always pushing him. I'm like, yo, tweet, post, post, post. Like he can be
You
our
do
voice.
it. You do it.
Yeah, yeah. So he's been our voice for the last 2, 3 years, and it's been great. He's growing. And I'm kind of trying to mirror what he's doing as well, just not as much.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I love
yeah.
it. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I think it's also interesting that, I mean, for someone who sits in a marketing chair like myself currently, being like, I as my own person, social media, right, participate, but as a company, it's just a way different ball game, right? Like just trying to think through social media and like the algorithm getting it right and like being way more on top of it. It's just a whole different ball game. So I think it's interesting that you with your background in social media are more like, Chris, you do that. You take on that.
Yeah.
Um, at least to a stronger degree than maybe you're taking on at the moment.
Yeah. And that's why we have our new company with Danny Duncan, famous YouTuber, to help, push his face in front of the crowd and get his
Mm-hmm.
capture his audience, and kind of be that founder for us. So we don't have to tell that story. And we already have that story from the beginning. So it's worked out
Love it.
great. So,
Yeah. And you said real quick that Danny was a friend as well. Obviously now you have that professional relationship, but how did you all meet?
we actually met from trying to pay him to do a CrossNet,
Love it.
and he was trying to charge us a lot of money. We're like, no, no shot. Like we can't afford that.
Yeah.
And then we just met one night and we're like, hey, let's just make games together. And it was,
Mm.
yeah, and we've been working together ever since. And we have a bunch of stuff in the pipeline we're super stoked for.
Okay, that's so fun. Love it. Okay, so now we can dive into perhaps more of the logistical questions. Can you tell us about the development of CrossNet itself? I know you said you had it in your backyard. But I'm always curious to hear, especially in the game space where I feel like there's, obviously like games you make them up, right? Like you make up their own rules. There's not at least from my perspective, not a ton of boundaries in terms of like the rules that you can make up as long as it makes sense, right? And like obviously it has to appeal to the audience. So can you tell us about like how you kind of developed CrossNet, and if you want to go into Good Sport as well, what you all are doing currently with that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think so as far as the development, like physically, we source it overseas. We wish we could do it in the United States, but it costs way too much. Mike, he's an engineer. He started off CrossNet just sample after sample after sample, spending a lot of money because they're heavy duty.
Mm-hmm.
Changes every time that need to be made. Now we have a product developer full time, who works on all our products, working on games that are coming out next Christmas. So we have a pipeline of games. Every time we make a game though, and we're trying to implement the rules, usually it's me making the rules. So I'm always getting
That's
shit
fun.
like, Greg, you're always changing the rules. With when we're
Mm-hmm.
playing with friends and stuff, but we have to change the rules, like especially in this beginning stages.
Yeah.
Uh, for the CrossNet game, it kind of took the four square concept, rotating it. You have the king square and so we call it 1, 2, 3, 4 because Universal, not everyone knows what four square is, and they don't call it by the king, queen, and all that.
Like
Like in
okay, we also had this debate with my friend group this weekend. Do you call it the toilet or the ace?
Yeah, I've never heard of toilet in my
Okay,
life.
there you go. So like growing
Exactly.
up, I'm from New Jersey originally. It was like king, queen, jack, toilet.
Yeah, yeah. See, I don't know what toilet is, but in you go to like England, they call it like box ball and stuff, and have different
Mm,
terminologies. So we just did 1, 2, 3, 4, and that four square is that king square. So we
mhm.
made it number space, and we just did. We played to 11, win by 2 because that's how we always play pickup basketball. So that's how we came up with that number.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's really it. And then little rules like will pop up as you play,
Yeah,
and
I love it.
you write them down. You write them down, and then you go
Yeah.
through it, keep arguing.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I feel like
Yeah.
too, yeah, it's just as long as you give, would you agree with this? Like you give like baseline rules, right? And then obviously people can make them up as they go. Like my friend group, I feel like we take a game and then start putting on new rules. Like we we'd been playing for probably like 2 hours at this point. And so we were like making new rules, like whoever was the king gets to set a new rule. So it was like you can only play with your left hand, things like that, just to, like make
Yeah.
it harder, right? Um, so as long as you like, you kind of want to leave that space open so everyone can make it their own, or like create those inside jokes, create those inner rules, whatever.
Yeah, kind of like a freestyle mode. Definitely
Yes.
seen that in the volleyball community, which one thing that always has pissed me off since we started, they always do 3 hits, right? And that's
Mm.
not our game. We do 1 hit. So whenever we used to see 3 hits, we were like, oh, can you just do 1 hit for the ad for the video? And the volleyball people are like, that's what we do, bump set spike. And I'm like, 1 hit.
You're like,
So
we got to
it's
get like 15-second reels in. Come on.
yeah.
We don't have
That's
time.
gonna challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And then so was there any like I imagine you said like Mike was testing what the actual product was like and changing all those different things and you were changing the rules. So with like do's and don'ts of product development space, especially with something that's bigger, how did you all kind of like navigate what's worth it in terms of like this switch needs to be made, like a nice to have versus a need to have? Did you have like any of those internal conversations?
Yeah, yeah. At first, so a lot of learning lessons with this too. At first, we're like, oh, let's make it as cheap as possible,
Mm,
but as good as possible on that cheap side. So we cheaped out, and we've had so many problems over the years. We continue to have problems with like carabiners, like the little the
mm,
clips, the
yep.
balls peeling if we switch a factory, um, the poles getting rusty sometimes when they're not supposed to. In factories, just like saying it's fine and then not having proper testing. So there's a lot that goes into like the backyard toy game space that people have no idea. And it's so much more challenging than like making a card game or food or anything like that. That's just like constantly on a easy repeat cycle. Constantly getting defects due to weight. You get containers in from the port and a whole pallet's crushed because of
Oh
the
my
weight.
gosh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
we've had terrible, terrible incidents. Yeah, yeah,
I'm sure that's super fun to have to deal with or open up and you're like, oh my God,
yeah. But
craziness.
I mean, going back to your question though, like we've always want to make the product as high quality as possible, still affordable and have the best margins possible. But if it's like, hey, we'll spend extra 50 cents on a kit to make it way more high quality, so we're not getting customer service problems and bad feedback. And we want the person has our game now to really enjoy it, um, and vouch for it and tell their friends and play with their friends.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense in terms of I feel like a lot of people would probably try and probably fit that same path where it's like, let's see what we can make for like the trade-off of obviously wanting to keep it affordable, but also such a good product that someone would vouch for it. Were there any other lessons in terms of like product development, like trying, I don't know, like marketing and like branding, um, for like the case and the box that it comes in, like any elements of the product design that are kind of more marketing focused?
Yeah, yeah, the box. So we got into Shields. That was our first retailer. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
store out in the West in Utah and those states. Um, we got in store. We were so excited. We took a video, rolled up.
Oh,
We were
I'm sure. Oh my gosh, that's
so
yeah.
pumped. We were so excited. But after we were excited for like 30 seconds, I'm like, guys, this is ass. This box sucks.
Mm,
And we are not going to be able to sell through this store unless we change those boxes. It was like the box was so bad. I don't even know how we signed off on that. But then we changed it to a black box and we're like, okay, it's better, but like we have a black box. That's not possible. Like, we have to inverse this. So we made a nice yellow, vibrant box. So when you walk into Dick's Sporting Goods, Bass Pro Shop, you name it, big yellow box will be there. You'll know what that is from that branding. So hopefully, the big yellow box stands out to people nowadays.
Yeah, it captures the attention. I feel
Yeah.
like more than probably a black box would. Okay, cool. I think that's always so interesting, just especially me not being in the anything to do with product development. It's fascinating to hear how people arrive at different decisions. Um, so the next question I have for you in terms of product development is we were just talking about, like, obviously you want someone to have to, or someone to feel like they could vouch for your product because of the quality of it. Um, so when you're thinking through designing a game, are you thinking about customer retention in terms of like all the how can you maximize someone coming back, or someone or even like customer loyalty, like providing, their own stamp of approval on a product? Was that part of the conversation, or is that kind of something that now maybe you all are thinking through?
Yeah, it's always been tough. Like, retention for our company is just, it's not there, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have a CrossNet volleyball, and then hopefully you can sell them a CrossNet soccer if their kid plays soccer and loves soccer. Most likely not.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you can sell them a CrossNet H2O if they have a pool version, if they have a pool and money for that, and they have to fall in love with the original version enough to buy a pool version. So that retention
Right.
is not really there. So our angle is definitely like, hey, let's have this customer sell for us. So we use, like Social Snowball we were talking about before this, things like that, just to help our customers, turn into sellers for us. Um, that's our biggest thing as far as like retention. It's tough. I mean, the best we could do is just make new games, make new products. That's how we came out with a new company. We've had ideas in the back of my head for years of a list of hundreds of games that I want to make. And that's going to all fall into Good Sport. So eventually we can get all our customers just to keep buying our games, and we'll become one of the biggest backyard toys and games maker in the world.
Love it. Do you have a tangent? Do you have like a notes app that you like keep of like running game ideas?
Oh yeah. Yep. I got notes, I got Notion boards. We have a long list, and it's been fun trying to pick out what comes next.
Mm.
Um, Especially when we all have different ideas of what we want to do. Like, Danny's different than Chris, and I'm different than Mike. So it's we have to find like neutral ground of what's popular and what we think is gonna come out next.
Okay. Okay, cool. Just had to ask that real quick.
Yeah.
But let's continue along the train of retention versus like referral based strategy. Can you explain to people? I mean, I know we were also talking about Social Snowball. Shout out Noah Tucker, he's great. But can you explain kind of what that relationship looks like in case someone isn't familiar with Social Snowball, and explain how you all use it?
Yeah, for like affiliate stuff, it's like, hey, you buy the CrossNet, you set it up, you love it, right? You can go scan that QR code on the net, on the box, and then you can refer your friend, and get money back, get cash back rewards for that, or gift cards we do, as well, for the customers if they want to purchase another game, another set.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Helpful, I'm sure, to have context. So with then, because that was one of my questions for you, is like, if you there's obviously a hope that the product lasts so long that someone wouldn't have to buy another one, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless it's like you said, a different version of the product or a different product entirely. So one of my questions was like, how do you think about retention when you're looking at something that has a large, if not maybe indefinite timeline, or repeat purchase rate, right? Like, there's a lot of time between someone would buy the original CrossNet set, and then maybe I saw like also you guys have limited editions, or like the water version, or like the doubles net, right? Like, there's different add-ons that are inspired by the original. Um so I think it makes a lot of sense that you all maybe know that retention might not be the play that you all should be focusing on, but rather focusing on referrals or that word of mouth marketing. Or, kind of like the aspect of virality of someone just seeing something, and then, it getting bigger and bigger just because of the organic motion behind there.
Yeah, I mean, so I already touched on it with having new products, right? Make new products, new products, new products. But for CrossNet, there's only so many real product SKUs we can make.
Mm-hmm.
We're staying in that four square lane. We're not going to bounce out of that and just start making random frisbee games, right? has to be in that square element. And we are running out of products for that, right? Like that's just the truth. I can come up with a few tonight, but they might not be as successful. So the next thing would do is like upsells. What can we do to upsell the CrossNet volleyball that everyone loves? That's making a doubles net to make it 2-on-2 and 2-on-2. So you can have a partner. I'm not sure if you played that at the lake house last weekend, but
it wasn't the doubles one. We were just rotating in. Yeah, with a group of us. Yep.
You would probably have more fun playing the doubles. Like,
oh,
so
I'm
next,
sure. Way more chaos too.
yeah. And you have the bump set spike 3 hits. So that's what we try to do. Is get the upsells, the innovation on top of the SKUs currently. We want to come out with like lights, make it glow in the dark. That's next in the pipeline.
That's fun.
Yeah. For the pool version, we're coming out with a newer pool version that's more like, I can't speak on it yet, but it's just easier, cheaper.
We'll come back later. We'll have you on again and then we'll talk about that.
So just adding upsells for each item is the goal. And then obviously new products with the new company, and then as many products as we can under the CrossNet umbrella as well. And then the referral game is like, we really just want, you to go set it up at the beach with your friends, and you get people taking photos, videos, asking what it is, asking to play. That's how we started CrossNet. That's how it blew up. It's literally like a real snowball in real life, and it just keeps rolling as long as people are selling it for us and playing and having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you, but I want to share with the listeners, we had at least 3 or 4 people who were walking by when we were playing it this past weekend. Just ask us like, hey, what's that called? Or like, what's that game? And we just said, it was like, oh, it's like Foursquare, but volleyball.
Yeah.
And like an older couple was like, oh my God, I remember like Foursquare. Like, you all know what it is. And we're like, yeah, we know. They're like, yeah, we used to play that on the playground. I was like, yeah, it's still a fun game. Right. Little bit shocked that perhaps a younger generation would still know what it is. But to your point of the accessibility of and ease, hopefully, of referrals, being right there for someone if they want it and know about it. And I know you mentioned the QR code on the box and on the game itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, it should be on the net, so hopefully it's there.
Okay. Honestly, yeah. Now I'm gonna make my friend Joey break it out and I'll go scan it. So in addition to kind of like the packaging, where are you advertising that referral program anywhere else along the customer journey, or is it just kind of in the unboxing experience?
Yeah, they'll get it in the emails on the flows. I don't know where it's at in the flows, but it's there. It'll be on the flows. We'll send emails out. Sometimes we'll do some social media stuff. But we try to let the customer fall in love with the game first, and then want to sell for us and be that consumer. I've been there for brands before, and a lot of brands do it way better than we ever could. So we try to fall down that alley.
Yeah. So, I mean, also I imagine then it's less of an uplift on your end as well. If someone obviously comes to you first with the intent of, hey, I want to sell for you all, it's easier than trying to go out and find people and maybe convince them.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, we just come to realization with like, what's the truth behind like our company, our brand. Like, we're not selling water bottles, right? Like, we're not CPG, like we're not in that space. So it's tough, and we know like where we can cap this, and we just got to keep penetrating the United States. Like, we haven't scratched the surface yet, I don't think so. We're excited.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Let's dive into that a little bit more about like what the truth behind the brand, because one of the things obviously I love to speak about is kind of like the marketing plays and the branding, like the messaging that you're trying to leave in the customer journey, because it's all just fascinating. So if you had to say, like, how would you articulate or how would you share the message that you all are hoping to leave consumers with when they're interacting with either of your brands?
Yeah, I think it's just get out and play. Like, get out and play. These phones that we're on every day is just killer.
Yeah.
We're like the last generation of having knowing the world before these phones. So I think about that all the time, and it's like our kids are going to be growing up with this technology 24/7, and I hope we can leave an impression that lasts for hundreds of years, that we have to still go out and play and be kids again and stay active and sweat and work out. Whatever you're doing, just get out and play.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny you bring that up. I was just listening to, it's not a e-commerce one, but it's my favorite podcast, Armchair Expert. And they were talking about how our generation is nostalgic for the past and like before we kind of had cell phones, and because we're the last, like you said, we're the last people that remember it. So it's just ironic that you said that, because I was just listening to them talk about that. And I think maybe on Sunday. But so I love that branding. I think like myself personally, I'm like, I love being off my phone. This whole weekend was off my phone. Like if I'm traveling, doing the same thing off my phone as much as I can. Um, so with the branding and the collab, or not even collab, but the inspiration to collab with Danny and tap into the influencer space, do you feel like there's kind of potential for like us reverting? It's more of a philosophical question, but like us reverting and like not depending on our cell phones, or is it just like full steam ahead in your eyes? What do you think?
No, I think we're doomed. We're absolutely doomed.
Okay.
I don't think people aren't like they're too addicted to it. It's an addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and we're definitely doomed. But I hope we can play a part in it where, at least a small percentage is going playing one of our games, whether it's our game or not. Like getting outside. Like I say that all the time. It's like our competitors' games are like, yeah, we don't like them, sure, but like they help us, we help them. If someone's
Right.
playing that game, someone's gonna play our game,
Mm.
and vice versa. So yeah, we're definitely doomed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Love that. Well, we can end there. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I love that you brought up like competitors and we're not going to discuss them, but the notion of like competitors obviously making you better or just like setting the space for creating new games. And one of the I mean it's a different space because it's not a backyard game, it's a card game, but like Cards Against Humanity, having it be like a household name, kind of like, I want to say first in the space. I don't know if that's actually true, but to me, kind of the first card game of that nature that I was introduced to. And now they have like a whole slew of competitors and like their own versions of different games, right? And obviously it's similar to other ones, to like apples to apples, all that stuff, right? But how are you thinking about like when you're going to market a game? Because in similar to Cards Against Humanity, I would say CrossNet probably falls in that same category, right? Where it's like that is the first brand that I saw that is doing what you all are doing. I don't know if that's correct, if you all were the first, so you can feel free to correct me.
No, we weren't. Yeah, we weren't. So I don't think CrossNet would come into being in existence right now without CanJam. I don't know if you remember CanJam.
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
also a game I played with my friends
yeah,
last
yeah.
summer.
So there's CanJam, there's Spikeball, and there's CrossNet. Like those are the
Hmm.
three big ones right now.
Yeah.
I'll have the black and yellow vibe. And I think those are the core games, right?
Hmm.
That started this trend, and I think we've done a great job. I think CrossNet's that one game that came out during like this COVID era
Yeah.
where people were stuck inside playing all these games, and you've seen a huge wave of different innovative games coming out now since CrossNet's existence, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm just seeing them more because I'm in the space and I get hit with the ads, but there are so many different backyard games that hopefully are going to last, and some aren't going to last just because they're just not, they just
The
can't keep up.
nature of, yeah, the way
Yeah,
we live. Yep.
but there's been a ton of innovation in the backyard space, which is cool to see. And they help. Like I said, they all help each other. Whether it's a putting game for golf or a volleyball game.
Okay. Yeah, I have seen, I think also, I mean, as much as to try and be on TikTok and like producing content on there is tough. Like I said earlier in the episode, it is I feel like the stuff that I'm exposed to is the breadth of it is way bigger because of that app. And so I do see like some like putt mini golf like at home, right? I forget the name of it. But those games that it's bringing, a game you love into your backyard. So I think that makes sense for me in terms of backyard games and Spikeball and Cam Jam and CrossNet. I feel like it I don't know if those came out similar timing of CrossNet or like before, but in my mind they are all associated.
Yeah,
Um
they're actually pretty old. Like Spikeball's 15 years, Can Jam's like 20 plus.
that is
Uh,
so funny.
it's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, it's literally crazy how old we are.
Yeah, that and like how unpredictable it is when like people are going to interact and then kind of see it as like now I know I could call up multiple friends who have all those games, right? And like I said earlier in the episode, they're the ones that okay, you're like you're assigned to bringing this game, you're bringing that game, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, right? Um and then so last kind of marketing question that I wanted to ask you is because obviously you have Good Sport with Danny, Mike and your brother. So what other like what I guess my question is, what's like some fun marketing initiatives that stand out in your brain in terms of like, okay, love that this happened for your brands, like love that we got to participate in this. You can kind of take this question wherever you want, like if it's a fun story about, kind of the virality, wherever. But it's a question I love to ask.
Yeah, I think the collab, like besides like getting in wholesale and being in these big stores, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. But the collabs we've been able to do over the last few years and what we have in the pipeline for Good Sport, especially with Danny's connections, like we've partnered with like USA Volleyball. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we've done some. That's like for people that don't know, it's like the NBA of volleyball. So it's really cool to be able to do
Yeah,
that.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not a volleyball fan at all. Like I've never played volleyball growing up, anything like that. So um, it was cool. It was cool to be able to get those relationships. Canada volleyball, and then for Good Sport over here, we have a bunch of collabs that I can't name right now, but everyone will know
But
who
they're
they are.
coming.
They're coming, and I'm excited. I'm stoked for those.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. Okay, cool. So last question that I want to ask you, and it's more about the customer journey. Could you kind of like walk us through the ideal customer journey? Like what kind of communications they're getting? Malomo obviously is in the post-purchase space, so that's what we care about, but or that's what we prioritize first. But I always think it's so interesting when I'm talking to founders like yourself to kind of paint the picture of like the ideal scenario of the communications that someone is getting pre and post purchase.
Yeah, so I guess pre-purchase they're getting hit with ads, right? On usually Meta.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Good old meta. Yep.
hopefully they check out, right? And then after that, they'll get a thank you email. Then they will get your orders on the way, and then they will start getting hit with the social snowballs of the world and that kind of stuff. And then some post-purchase surveys of asking how you saw it, where you got it from. Did you buy it in store, maybe, or did you see it in store? Which is important to us.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many different channels now. And then once they get it, we want them to fall in love with it. Go back to our website, refer a friend, buy another product.
Yeah.
That's really the journey. We just want them to fall in love with their games, and so they know what they're talking about every time someone asks, and they can give an honest, good review.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I would hopefully say it's not like rocket science, right? Like the journey you kind of want it to
yeah,
fall along those lines. I think it's interesting like the way to hear the way brands tweak it, like with social snowball and like the cross sells and upsells that you can include obviously in the customer experience before someone even gets their product, right? Like
yeah.
I don't know if you all have like cross sells and upsells in your
Yeah, we do.
post-purchase communications. Okay.
Yeah, we have those too, and then we have the SMS that goes out for with their tracking and stuff. We've been using like Shop app too as well. A lot of people have been
Mm.
purchasing that, and actually that's been giving us some errors. But if once it's working, it's pretty nice, and they get updates to their phones and smooth.
Yeah, yeah. How are you? Because like in my brain, like connecting data between retail and ecom is like a monster.
Yeah,
um,
it's not fun, and that has been our weakest point over the last few years. We're just not experts in that, and there's not too many people that are in the space.
mm,
Because we have Amazon too, which is a whole different beast.
mm,
So we have Amazon.com, different countries, uh, wholesale in different countries. So it's hard. We're not tracking it as efficiently. We've done the North Beams, the Triple L's, um, but it's very hard. It's very hard
yeah.
to do, and I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
Not a
Yeah. No,
proper.
I love
Yeah,
it. I think that's like the most relatable part of this podcast is when people are like, honestly, I don't know. We're still figuring it out. Right.
yeah.
Like I think it gives a lot of hope to people
We
who are
can.
like also in that seat.
Yeah, we've done billboards, we've gauged traffic and stuff. We know if we turn on Meta ads that the in-store sales are going to increase
Hmm.
by 10%, right? We do know that data, but every time we spend $1 on Facebook, it's going to D2C, Amazon, or retail, and that's very, very hard to track for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Also just yeah, ads. We just had a guest on who was talking about like trying to scale ads, just scale meta ads or well meta and Facebook ads and the game that all is as well is not a fun one to play just with A/B testing and figuring out all of that with the added element of where the CTA is going and trying to track all of that. Um but it's good that you at least know, right, it's working. Like that's the bare minimum, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think
Are
that in
you?
itself is hard to figure out.
Yeah, backyard games took a dip last year, like year over year, and then now they're increasing, which is it's good to see. We're
Mm.
doing our retail performance is like 20% better year over year, and our ad spend's down like 75%,
Oh, whoa.
which is
Okay.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
We're just trying to get
awesome.
more efficient. Yeah,
Hmm.
we're just trying to get more efficient over here and be smart on what we spend. Before we were just trying to throw darts at the wall for a lot of things, but find what works, scale it, and make it efficient.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of at the danger of saying that, like sometimes that's what you have to do for marketing is just like throwing everything out there and seeing what works and tracking it. Um, because it could be a puzzle that you have to kind of unravel just by seeing whatever works. You take those pieces and make it better. I had another question. Shoot, it was about something about Amazon or something, but it's okay. If I remember it, I remember it. I always like to try and wrap up these episodes with a classic piece of advice for anyone who's listening. It can be about just life in general or super specific down to a business, but is there anything we haven't gotten to discuss today that you'd like to impart on our listeners?
Hmm. Um, Pay yourself when you can.
Mm,
Your business. Don't try to like say, "Oh, I'm going to save money for when I sell the books look better." That's not the
yeah.
case. Like an investor will know that they have to pay someone to do the job. So definitely pay yourself, and then once you get that money, be smart with it. I've done some stupid shit over the last 2 years, investing in friends,
Mm,
buying crypto. So
all the
so
fun
be
things.
yeah, yeah. I think I was thinking of something yesterday in the shower thoughts. I was like, damn, I should have invested in like three of my friends when they haven't proved anything yet. So
Right.
so I think that's some advice. Don't once you get some money, don't like start giving it out to your friends.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get
Right.
eager with it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Love it.
my side advice. That's not to do with CrossNet or anything like that.
Yeah. Should I send those friends directly? Just
Oh,
that little snippet?
I'll tell them to their face. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Well, we haven't heard that yet on the podcast, and I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time, Greg. It's been absolutely amazing. I've had a blast getting to chat with you and excited to see all the future games that you all are going to roll out. I think it's going to be a blast. So thank you again.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.